What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 40K Cafe, and thank you, TJ, for the request. In honor of Space Marine 2 coming out soon, we're going to be talking about Lieutenant Titus of the Ultramarines. Lieutenant Demetrius Titus is the former first captain and firstborn Space Marine to the Ultramarines' second company. And he is even the original character and hero that you play as in the original Space Marine game. But what happened in between that time period from the first game and the second game that made him go from captain to lieutenant? Well, let's cover what happened in the first game. Lieutenant Titus would disappear after the events of the first Space Marine game. As we know in the game, he successfully defeated Orc War Boss Grimskull, as well as fought off a Chaos Warband and their leader, a sorcerer known as Nemeroth. During his battle with Nemeroth, he showed an unnatural affinity and resilience to the war. This would result into him being taken into custody by the Inquisition so that he may be studied for his resilience further. Unfortunately to Titus, his location would be scrubbed from all Imperial records and a new captain to the second company would be promoted. In fact, the captain that would replace Lieutenant Titus was none other than Cato Sicarius. Now back to Titus. During his captivity, Titus was being held captive by none other than Inquisitor Thrax. Unfortunately for Titus, this Inquisitor held an extreme grudge against Astartes, not trusting them and blaming them for the state of the Imperium. Titus would be held prisoner by Thrax for a whole standard century, and during this imprisonment he would undergo countless physical tortures and studies. And let it be known that the Ultramarines didn't forget about him. Marneus Calgar himself petitioned the Inquisition release his former captain. Sadly, his request would never reach the ears that they were supposed to, or even if they did, they fell on deaf ears. Fortunately for Titus, favor would find him one day. Inquisitor Thrax, along with a retinue of Grey Knights, would lead an assault against a former loyalist warband known as the Grey Slayers chapter. And amongst this assault, Inquisitor Thrax would end up becoming possessed by a daemon, and the Grey Knights would have to eliminate Thrax himself. This is exactly what would be the saving grace for Titus, as all of Inquisitor Thrax's belongings would have to be investigated. To those that would lead the investigation, and to their surprise, they would find countless Space Marines trapped in stasis in interrogation pods. The Inquisitor that would discover of Thrax's treachery would actually promote these Space Marines to join the Death Watch, and that is exactly where Titus would go. This is where Titus would remain for quite some time, not learning of his Primarch's resurrection, and remaining as a Black Shield for many years, all until the Chief Librarian of the Ultramarines would discover Titus during a Death Watch mission. During this mission, many of the Black Shields would be gravely wounded and or slain, Titus being amongst them, with Varro Tigurius barely showing up in enough time to save his former comrade. Once being returned to the Ultramarines, it was declared that Titus's injuries were far too great for them to standardly heal, and thus it was declared that to even have a chance of surviving, Titus would have to cross the Rubicon Primaris and become a Primaris Space Marine. As you can imagine, with the second game being announced, Titus did survive. Marneus Calgar would have his former battle brother tested one more time and still find no chaos taint amongst him. And so, when once again being fit for duty, the chapter master of the Ultramarines would have him reinstated in his second company. And now, once again ready to take the fight back to the enemies of the Imperium, we soon await what's in store next for Lieutenant Titus. Thanks again, TJ, for the request. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Drop a comment if there's anything you want to hear about next, and as always, remember to follow for more.